How's it rockin', Dween Nation? This is the Dween Sports Podcast. We're about to get underway. But before we do, we'd love if you could like, comment, subscribe, or share. We are posting weekly sports content, and we want to build up the brand that is Dween Sports. Thank you all, and enjoy.
We are back, and we are discussing the last team in the AFC South, and that is the Tennessee Titans. They are with the number one overall pick. They have, let's kind of lay out their roster. They got Tony Pollard. They got Tyjae Spears. They got Calvin Ridley. Who else do they got? They still got Chiga Okonkwo. They re-signed Nick Westbrook, I believe. Oh, maybe they haven't actually. Hold on. No, Nick Westbrook. Apologies, Dween Nation. Nick Westbrook signed with the Miami Dolphins.
That's right.
Over free agency. So no more touchdown bonanza with Nick Westbrook-Akine in Tennessee, at least. Even though, the 1 week I had him, he got no catches. So we'll move past it in the midst of all his 8 touchdowns. But anyway, let's talk about the Titans. Are we confirmed it's Cam Ward to Tennessee? And if it is Cam Ward, what's the outlook of this offense?
Well, Justin, it has to be Cam Ward here. We cannot have the meme generator, Will Levis, another season there. And I think, is it Brian Callahan? I think he's just done. He's just done with Will Levis at quarterback. It was a week 1 in Chicago. The memes it started and it just did not end there. Mr. Mayo he's going to be gone. He's going to be ketchup. He's going to be mustard. And so I feel like, now, Justin, it's Cam Ward. But, Justin, one thing I want to add is I think they should go Cam Ward, obviously. But then the next time they pick, let's get something to protect that asset, whether if it's an offensive lineman or a wide receiver. I know you paid Calvin Ridley all that money, but looking at your wide receiving depth chart, it is awful. Treylon Burks, this is the guy that you were supposed to get back in that A.J. Brown return when you sent him to Philadelphia. He has not performed, Justin. He has been awful. And then you get Van Jefferson, who – he was okay in I think it was their Super Bowl run in Los Angeles, but it was just too much Cooper Kupp. It was too much Puka Nacua after. And Van Jefferson really was never that guy. I think he went to Pittsburgh for a little bit, couldn't really produce. And then Justin, please tell me if you know these guys. Bryce Oliver, Mason Kinsley, James Prochet, and then, even at the tight end, they had Chig Okonkwo, who had some good games. He had some good games at the end of the season, I believe. But, the backup tight end, Josh Wiley, and then you got Colton Dow. Justin, these are – who? So, Justin, I think that in the second round, they're going to need to make a play for another wide receiver. Calvin Ridley, he's been in the league for about 6 and 7 seasons now. He did miss a year for suspension, so he's still, I believe, is still trying to catch up. He had some flashes this past year with his first year with the Titans. But I think, Justin, that – they're going to need to get a tight end, Justin. And if I'm projecting, if they were to go in the second round to get a wide receiver, I do like Trey Harris. Maybe Luther Burden falls to the second round. Maybe Jalen Noel from Iowa State, Isaiah Bond from Texas. He could fall in the third round, Justin. So that is something to consider. It's not the craziest wide receiving class that we've ever seen. Maybe the top 4 there that will be in the first round are the best it gets. But still, Justin, if not a wide receiver, I think they should go offensive lineman to protect Cam Ward, who so far, I think I like my odds so far pre-draft to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Oh, yeah. He'd be the clear favorite. But the sad thing is that wide receiver room is the worst in the NFL. Like, that is really, really bad. We were throwing out names I've never heard of. They could have been name generated, and I would have believed you. This is bad. It's bad. And I think you're right. Second round, that early second round pick they have has to be wide receiver because they don't pick again until the 4th round. So by then you're going to have no reliable pieces unless they're just going to be project type wide receivers. So you go Cam Ward and you better get yourself a wide receiver in the second. I like Absolutely. All the names you said. I'll even throw in a guy, Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State as well. He's kind of like a Michael Pittman type. Okay. He's getting a lot of good reviews. So that is, to me, that's Titans. If you're going to leave the draft, you're going to leave it happy getting Cam Ward at 1 and then getting your second rounder at a wide receiver because I think maybe Titans fans are a little scared about drafting O-line because the last, couple of years they went Peter Skoronski. The last year they went J.C. Latham, and both have somewhat underwhelmed in their tenure with Tennessee so far. So the O-line, I don't see a lot of improvements for, but yeah, what do you think?
Justin, real quick, I know this is like a hypothetical. I know this is so impossible to happen, but let's say you do draft Cam Moore in Tennessee. Wouldn't it be kind of cool if like you trade your next year first round pick and pair him up with Ted McMillan? Like, oh, like, take one. I mean, obviously it's a dream scenario, Dween Nation. It'll probably most definitely 100% won't happen, 99. But I feel like it would be kind of cool to see Cam Moore and Ted McMillan. I mean, what if Ted McMillan, Justin, falls to like the 25th pick in the first round and you can trade with Green Bay, right? Like Green Bay, I want to point out that Green Bay, they do not care who they draft, Justin. Green Bay is not a team that's like a franchise like, oh, we want this set guy. Like, we're going to draft whoever's there, whatever. It's just like, make a trade. Like, you might have to sacrifice your next year, but this is your future. Cam Moore, Ted McMillan. I think that'd be a cool connection, but that's a hypothetical dream scenario for fantasy football.
No, they're really hoping one of those top guys in Golden or Tet fall. And the thing about Tet, which has me somewhat worried, is he, on an interview recently, he said, I don't watch film. I hate watching film. And that just makes me think of Johnny Manziel every time somebody says that. And that worries me. But if you look at Ted McMillan, he's 6'5". He's a climb the ladder kind of guy. So it's like, what do I want to believe here? Because I was high on, if you look at Ted McMillan's tape, he looks like a very solid wide receiver. But, obviously the history, like Kyler Murray struggled early on in his career. He never watched film until they made him. And it was like a clause in his contract, watch film. But that's not always the best thing you want to hear, is that your player doesn't want to watch film. Yeah. But anyway, I agree. They would love if they could trade up to get a wide receiver. I think they could package that second rounder and maybe their 2 fourth rounders, or their second rounder, a fourth and a fifth, to move into the late first to get a guy like Ted if he falls, or Golden if he falls, or Emeka if he falls, or even Luther if he falls. So I agree that they're going to be looking and monitoring the back half of the first round to see if they can find themselves in it. But now with Cam Ward and now with a possible wide receiver, what are your thoughts with this running back room as well as Calvin Ridley?
You know what, Justin? This time last year, if I were to talk to my futuristic self and I were to say, I really love Tony Pollard 2025, my 2024 self would have laughed and laughed and laughed, because I was not excited about Tony Pollard joining the Tennessee Titans. But Justin, his first year, he was not bad. And, I think he started off the season really good. Let me see here. I mean, he had some good moments, and he was probably the most interesting piece. And you never would have understood it. I mean, yes, we love Tony Pollard when he was in Dallas. He was the Cinderella, but Justin, he hit 1,000 yards in his first year in Tennessee, and that's really interesting. One thing I want to mention, he is a Memphis guy. He's a Tennessee, product, and so he could be a great Titan. And the only thing is that I'm not really so happy about his 2024 campaign is that he only had 5 rushing touchdowns. So maybe with Cam Ward being there under center, maybe it can boost his stock there. If I were to draft him, I think he's a great 4th round pick. I think if I can get my 2 wide receivers and in the 3rd round pick, I can get me a solid running back. I think he's a guy that you can draft along the tiers of a Najee Harris, maybe a Chase Brown. I think he's kind of in that tier there, Justin. I think he has a great year. And Justin, I want to take a step further, is I think he's going to have a great year receiving the ball. I just have this gut feeling. He had 41 catches for 238 yards, so not so bad there for Pollard. But I kind of want to see a little bit more in the yards category, so maybe like 400 yards, 450 receiving for the Titans there for Tony Pollard. So I think I want to see him utilized more as a receiving running back as well. I'm not worried about Tajay Spears, although I think he's going to have some flashes this upcoming year. One last thing, looking at the tight end position, I think that's something they're going to have to address there in the 4th or 5th round. I know you mentioned they draft pretty late in their 2nd pick. And so that's one thing I think that they should address, is tight end as well.
Yeah, no, I could see a 4th rounder, maybe Gunnar Helm finds himself there, or Harold Fannin. That would be super interesting because, yes, I remember rookie year of Chiga Okonkwo. He had a couple flashes late in the year, and we thought, hey, he might build on this. He has not, and I think that he's kind of set where he's going to be for the rest of his career. Like, that's the level of play we're going to get. So maybe they want to look at improving that after they improve the wide receiver room, because that to me is a more pressing need there. I will say, actually, I think their most underrated signing, I was just looking at their depth chart, Kevin Zeitler. He was just on the Lions last year, had a very good year. now finds himself going to be, it's going to be Peter Skoronski, it's going to be Kevin Zeitler, it's going to be J.C. Latham. Dan Moore is a very solid offensive lineman. So maybe their O-line is better than what we think. They're going to be better than probably Houston, possibly
Mhm.
Jacksonville, possibly. So they might have possibly the best O-line in their division. And I mean, that's not saying a lot, but it's very possible. And I think with Cam Ward instead of Will Levis, because you were talking about Will Levis earlier, yuck. Yeah, I'm glad. I don't know whoever thought that they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't go quarterback early, because if they decided to go with Will Levis next year, I think they would have fired the coach before the season started, like that, or the GM. Like,
Mhm.
you can't do that. Will Levis was just so bad. They gave him the opportunity last year. They were like, Will Levis, you're our guy this year. You got to prove it. And he he said, prove that, and he threw it out the window. And all the memes of him messing up and all just the bad plays. I'm glad that they're going to get Cam Ward in this building. Hopefully they don't ruin Cam Ward, because I've seen really good stuff from Cam Ward. He's very accurate. He's got a cannon. I just hope they surround him with good pieces. That starts with a wide receiver in the second round. Maybe trading some of these knockout, like Traylon Burks. I'm sorry, that's not going to work out for me anymore. That won't get us anywhere. I know they got rid of Harold Landry. They saved some room there. Maybe they bring in a veteran like Amari Cooper, who's still on the market. So there's just actually a couple free agents still out there that may be worth discussing. But the Titans, you just hope that Cam Ward is able to get a couple more weapons. As for Pollard, I'll throw in my 2 cents with him. I think he's more of a 6th or 7th round guy. I think he finds himself like above Tyrone Tracy, but not in that conversation with Chase Brown and company. That's kind of my take. I think, oh my God, what's his name? Tyjae Spears, is going to still have a presence in the offense. I think he's going to take some of that receiving work that Pollard would like to have.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we've seen Pollard be successful receiving, especially in Dallas. So maybe he carves out more of a role there. But I think Tyjae will still have a presence, which limits Pollard just a little bit. And then as for Calvin Ridley, uh, honestly, I think he's going to be a little bit better than he was last year, which
Yeah.
last year wasn't great. But when you go from Will Levis to Cam Ward, I don't care that Cam Ward's a rookie in this scenario. Will Levis is not deserved to be a starting quarterback in this league, and Calvin Ridley was still able to average 12 points per game. I think another year in this offense, I think he will improve somewhat. And, instead of being wide receiver 31, maybe he finds himself as a wide receiver 22 or 23 or 25, kind of that range.
I will say, Justin, if you want to think about Cam Ward and Calvin Ridley, think about Deshaun Watson's rookie year with Houston and DeAndre Hopkins, how they were kind of able to build a rapport over the season. So that's kind of the best comparison that comes to mind there. Deshaun Watson, you didn't, I think Deshaun in some ways kind of reminds me of Cam Ward, but Cam Ward's more of a physical quarterback, I believe, more humble on field and off. But I feel like, I think that's kind of the best comparison. Is like, think of Hopkins' first year with Watson. I think that's what Calvin really could display, because at that point, Hopkins was a seasoned vet. It was his 6th or 7th year in the league at that point. Kind of like right now, Calvin Ridley, same thing with Cam Ward.
Yeah, I completely agree. Tennessee, though, finds themselves in last place firmly for me in this division. Do you agree, or do you think they have a possibility of jumping any team?
I mean, maybe, Justin, they could battle out with Indianapolis for the final spot, or for the third spot, I would say. Because after reviewing these divisions, Justin, I think I'm liking Jacksonville a little bit more, just a little bit more. Now that we're able to, digest and go through everything, dissect it all these moves and what these teams could do. I would say Indianapolis and Tennessee will be fighting for third.
Yeah, and that's why I love doing this. That's why we wanted to dive into every single team, because you find out things maybe you didn't realize, or we just kind of start talking about it, and then you're like, wait, okay, that makes sense. I think
Yeah.
this is going to happen now, or I think, oh, they're not going to improve or whatnot.
Yeah.
And that's what we're hoping to help with you everybody that's watching Dween Nation. Let's continue to talk about every team, continue seeing where their holes are, where they need to fix things, where we don't think they're going to fix things, where we think things are going to play out. That's all about what this offseason deep dive is for and this 2025 outlook is. But thank you guys for listening. And Genoa, send us out.
Yo, Dween Nation. This was our complete AFC South predictions episode and recap. Ending it off with the Titans. So let us know. And we're very interested to look back during the season to see if we were right or we were wrong. So go ahead and comment on any of these videos, how you feel. Thank you guys for watching. We love y'all. And as always, peace.